First of all, welcome. Hope everybody's doing fine. You know, the usual beginning stuff. I should want to say, because one of the things that's important in human social life is ritual, which is startings and beginnings of things usually get marked in some kind of way, and that's true of all societies all over the world. Remember, back in the day, we were talking about cultural universals, right? And one of those is that human beings do ritual things, especially when they mark transitions from one status to another, and that happens at a micro level too, with the beginning and ending of kindergarten classes or university classes or lectures. There's always a beginning, then there's some stuff, and then there's some way to mark the ending. We do that conversationally as human beings to know when it's time that somebody wants to speak, right? There's ways to initiate stuff. So anyway, the reason why I bring that up is because I want you guys to be thinking and maybe giving me some ideas, not just me, but like a bunch of us were talking. We had a faculty meeting the other day. And Nancy Buchan, who works with the IB program with the international business students a lot, and she's a psychologist actually by training. Has done a lot of work on, she teaches negotiations and stuff like that. Nancy said a lot of seniors are kind of grieving the fact that we probably won't have a graduation in the usual way. And I said, you know what, having a celebration is like really important. And I don't know, I'd love to hear from you guys if we could take just 5 minutes, if anyone has any thoughts about it. Because thoughts about how might we construct some kind of ritual thing that allows you to have some kind of, I don't know, would it be an online graduation, or do we send, you know, baskets of food to people? What do you do, right? I mean, you know, ritual should have like some food and some special language involved and maybe some kind of ceremony thing, right? And a little celebration, a little party. And I know a lot of folks are having Zoom cocktail hour. That's a start. But is it something that people would be interested in, number one? Number two, what could it look like? What can we craft or create that might be interesting to do? And kind of what are the purposes of doing that ritual? And so if you think of that, right, maybe you can think of ways to do it while we're all experimenting with new forms of social life. By the way, I don't like this word social distancing. I like the word physical distancing, because what I'm finding is that people are actually spending a little more time on the phone or on the chat or on the whatever, talking to those family members that you've kind of ignored, you know, that those annoying ones that you still kind of wonder about. Or even the friendly ones that you just haven't talked to in a while, right? So I don't know. The point is, like, it's 9:51. Let's take a minute. Does anybody, Jared maybe, or Izzy or Taylor, or anybody have any thoughts about that? What do you think? Should we have a graduation? And if so, how would we do it? Anybody have a thought? I'd love to hear from somebody. Here's what happened to me. I mean, I was out walking the other day and went over to the State House. I was looking around at the flowers, and it's nice and open, and you can be distant from folks and still have a nice walk. And there were a couple of students taking pictures of one another, one in a graduation gown. And I said, "What's up?" They said, "Well, you know, we're having a pretend graduation." And they said they thought that would be interesting. So we have a new message. Maybe someone has said something. You guys can put it in the chat. Have it over the summer. That's an idea. Jack was suggesting that. Yeah, you know, if you don't feel comfortable talking, right, the chat's a great way to do it. We could do it over the summer. There's some risk, evidently, that, or some concern that the nature, the course of this particular virus may take a couple of months. So yeah, summertime would be an option. Online graduation option, postponed to summer, winter, we could wait for it. I don't know, it's gonna be interesting to see. I think there are a number of people taking on jobs that would allow them to work from home if we are still on some kind of semi-lockdown. I don't know, maybe we won't be by then. Or walk with the December class, that's a good idea too. Yeah, because we're gonna, by December, things should be okay, yeah? One could hope. One of the things to say about that, I guess, is that, and we should all be aware of this too, is that there's a number of countries like Hong Kong, right? As a, you know, not a country, but, you know, a segment of China. They haven't shut everything down, and that's interesting. And the way they've managed to do that is that they take your temperature with a little laser temperature gun. I've got one of those we use in the kitchen. Anyway, anytime before you go in and out of a, or into a public building, there's somebody there who's going to aim it at your forehead and see if you have a temperature. And also people wear masks all the time. Mask wearing, by the way, is an interesting phenomenon that I think we'll probably talk about as we start talking about Korea next week. So there's that. And we had a couple other suggestions. I feel like online graduation wouldn't be personal enough, right? So I'd vote for postponing until we can have that walking experience. Yeah, right? I mean, the walking itself is really important. And it's not like we're all going to be in spaceships for the next 8 months. Although, you know, there's a desire to keep people safe, especially those of us who, you know, would kind of like to hang around with our friends once in a while, but we kind of have to wait. Send surveys to all seniors asking what they prefer. That's Kathleen. You know, that's really important, is that, you know, just kind of sitting around a bunch of administrators coming up with ideas to help students. Oh boy, you know, it's better to ask. So yeah, that's a good point. Alternative like summer or with the December grads, right? So 2020 seniors don't have to lose out on the opportunity to walk. Yeah, it seems like that actual physically being there is like an essential component of this, right? Maybe the thing to do is to just have the discussion to start with, and that's a good start. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Okay, super. Thanks you guys for those suggestions. That's great. Okay, so what I want to do is just kind of highlight a couple of things that are already available to you guys on Canvas. I'm going to share a different screen here, and if you want, you can play along at home. Play along at home. There should be, let's see, I have to move a window around a little bit so I can see what I've got. I'm going to go over here to Firefox for a second. So I wanted to look at the Canvas for just a hot minute. Firefox. And we'll go over here. How's that move yet? I wanted to go over to the window. It's okay, we can do that from here, just like this, and we can go Canvas and pull it up. Oops, I don't want that one. Well, this is a little awkward because I have to, this is where I think I do need two screens. I've actually got a second screen on order, you guys. Thanks for bearing with me for a second here. One of the interesting things about using Zoom is that it's real interesting how it determines what's an active window and what's not an active window. So that it changes your browser behaves slightly, and that's kind of an interesting thing. Oh, okay, I guess I did have that over there. So we'll go back to Zoom for a second. And I'm going to share a different screen. This is the screen I'm going to share. There we go. Okay. So looks like we're in good shape there. Interesting. I wonder what window we're looking at here. I have multiple windows open, so I have to learn how to do this correctly. Let's see, Springboard 2, let's try this one. There we go, that's working now. So you see the online plan here. Sorry for that, it takes a little while. I'm not the quickest study in the world for this stuff. So what I wanted to suggest is just looking at this, we got an online game plan here, and that is that I'm sort of dialing it down just a little bit. I'm going to move to, if you guys don't mind, have the next thing that we do be pass fail, right? Actually the next thing, no. The next thing we do need to get a grade out there if we can. And the next thing is, can you guys prepare some kind of a report on your projects? Right here it says the focus of projects will change only slightly. The aim of our fieldwork won't be to select a product for marketing to students as we had planned and outline the syllabus. Instead, we're going to understand how these small businesses are coping with this pandemic. And we're going to do that online. We're not going to do that by visiting the places. It means maybe making a phone call. We'll talk about that more later. I don't want to go too far into that right now. But I would suggest that you guys start thinking about how you want to report what you have learned. You all have done a great job learning about these businesses. And I think we talked about, you guys, I know we did, doing that team report as a video. And I've posted some examples of what that might look like. but you don't have to do it as a video. You know, that could be kind of a pain in the rear. So if you'd like as a team to do it in another way, I'm open to however you'd like to do it. For example, you guys could do it just as a PowerPoint with a voiceover. You could do it in a Zoom meeting that I record and you just talk through it for 6 minutes. I would like it to be short. We talked about doing that sort of short style called Kucha Kucha or what have you. So we could do that short. So that's something I'd like for you guys to do. And if you can, the best way to do that, I think, is to get a Zoom account. But if you guys want to use like a WeChat group or you want to use like Google Hangouts or whatever, I don't care. You guys are good at that, and you'll find people in your team that have excellent ways to do that. It might be a great chance, some of you who have more than one Chinese member on your team, to learn about Weixin or WeChat. WeChat offers some really nice chat and video chat capability. I don't know about group chat. Does anyone know if WeChat works? You could send me a little note on the chat if anyone knows if Weixin, if WeChat allows you to have multiple people on it. So that would be a thing you might consider doing. Anyway, in your teams, I'll let you guys work that out. I hope you guys have good contact information. You should know that some of your team members may be dealing with other life issues, like family members who may be kind of under a lot of stress right now. A lot of folks aren't working who kind of need to be working, and that's a pain. So all of this goes to say that, you know, we need to be really flexible with each other on our teams and so on. And our dean has been really great about that, right? Yeah, you could submit an iMovie presentation. That's one of the questions Jack Leahy had, and Jack being the video fool that he is, right, Jack? So yeah, absolutely, you can do that. And I'd like it to be short. iMovie is a great idea, and it's a lot of fun to use. It's not difficult to use, and it allows you to put together some nice, you know, you can use your still images and so on. And I think there should be an outline out there somewhere about how to do that. I'll double check and see. I've got to tidy up all my assignments from all my classes, and I'm not done yet, but I've made a start. So there we go. So that's kind of the housekeeping thing. Does anyone, anything else about that? Here's the main point. Number one point. I'd like you guys on your teams to come up with a way to report. And you can do that either as an iMovie presentation, or you can do it in a lot of ways. It's kind of up to you guys and each team to figure that out. Second point is, I'm just, and this is an overall thing as it says up on Canvas, we're gonna keep these video sessions short. I'm gonna record them, and then I'll share them out on Canvas. A couple other changes, yeah, on Canvas. And that means that the rest of class time is time for you guys to sort of sort out how to work together and to schedule some meetings with me. I'll always be available here during class time if any team wants to meet. And I'm gonna ask each team to get with me over the next 2 weeks to do that very thing. And you know, any time is really open for me. I can manage any time that you want to do. And I'm doing some teaching, and if it doesn't conflict with other meetings, that should be fine. So I want you guys to also know a couple of other things. One is this is a nice little meditation thing. I find it helpful to think about breathing if you're stressing out. Some of us do. And then down here, you can see that I've got every week with, I've done this a little differently now. I've gone back to the old school week 11. If you click on week 11 like that, what's going to happen, I believe, is it should open a new window. And this is what I'd like for you guys to do this week and in the next couple of days. I want you to watch this full movie. It's an hour long, and it's about Jack Ma. And we've got another little thing here, what Alibaba is like. The point is to look at how online and e-commerce, which as we know is a big deal right now, because who wants to go to Target? Not very bad right at the moment, unless you wear a mask. Masks are good. And we've got some readings down here. It looks like a lot of readings, but it's not. These are super short. And I think they're fun and interesting. These links down here are related to China as well, but also related to our current situation with the pandemic. You know, our dean said something interesting the other day in an effort to be kind. He was saying, oh, you know, we've never been through a pandemic before. I'm like, excuse me, gay dude, HIV is a pandemic, and we lived through it, right? So it's kind of good news. We have found that we can deal with these things. We've also learned what mistakes not to make, like don't be slow. Figure out the behavioral changes you need to make, as in HIV epidemic, right? And in this case, social distancing, washing your hands like crazy, you know, being aware as much as you can about the nature of what the danger is, right? Being afraid is a cool thing because it points out, hey, maybe there's something I should learn over here, right? So that's all good. That last quiz, I put it down. That's a good question. Somebody said, when's the last quiz going to be due? I had it in here, actually. I do, on week 14. In 2 weeks, we're going to do it then. Because that way we'll have time to actually have talked a little bit about China in week 11, a little about Korea in week 12, and a little bit about India in week 13. And that last quiz will be on the 14th. The reason I didn't take it off is that some folks need that extra quiz. Maybe they lost, maybe they didn't take one of the quizzes, right? And we drop a quiz. So that's a good question. Thanks so much for that question from Alexa. Great question. All right, so, and then, down below, it's just the usual stuff that's been there. But anyway, if you click on any of these, some of these don't have content in them yet. I'm still trying to put together some new stuff. But if you look over here, this is for week 11. That's the whole movie. It's right on YouTube, and it's really fun to watch. It's the story of Jack Ma. So I like to do, I think, if I can go back, oh goodness, I guess I have to do it like this, because I don't know how to switch around in these windows as well as I might. Here we go. No, not Cuba. Oh, that's weird. Let me do that. Refresh that guy. Okay, that's not it. It's just right here. Here's what I want to do. Yeah, so we have some Tableau stuff here. I just want to take just a couple of minutes, and then we'll finish up with this. This is like the kind of lecture part of today, all right? So what it is we're going to be looking at is we're looking at Jack Ma, and we're looking at him not only in the context of what he did. Jack Ma, of course, is the guy who started Alibaba Company, which has become one of the largest, most powerful companies in the world, had the largest IPO, the largest stock opening ever in the history of the world. Be careful with your chair, right? So what's about that? Move this around. There we go. So Jack Ma started out as an English teacher, a young kid growing up in Hangzhou, China. You watch the movie, you'll see what's up. And it ended up creating this kind of online empire of online retail and online business to business. One of the things in the articles I would like you to read is the fact that doing what he did changed the way that small villages work in China. There's an image of one right there. Looks like a small town any place in the world, there's not too many tall buildings, and the only difference is that, the three-wheeled bike isn't for recreation, it's for moving produce around and so on. So anyway, what's happened is that in rural China, and in many places throughout China, smaller towns, there had been factories that may or may not have been terribly successful, and local government said, hey, wait, maybe we have a way we can sell some stuff online that we otherwise had trouble getting into the marketplace. And so the idea was that, this was something that Alibaba tried hard to do after they went through their entire process of growing up from nothing into a B2B kind of platform and then moving into a B2C platform as they created Taobao and a number of other shopping sites that are related to them. In doing so, they opened up new markets within China. It's kind of an interesting story. And the way that they promoted and worked that by keeping it free for a while and then letting people, realizing that, if people pay a little bit for a higher position on the website, all the kind of things around monetization are interesting, but also the impact on local communities as Alibaba grew into a bigger, more complicated organization. And you'll see links on Canvas to Alibaba's webpage that, of course, take it with a grain of salt. They're celebrating all of their stuff, right? But it tells you a little bit about how they sort of approach their business. Jack Ma has actually retired and is dedicating himself, as did Bill Gates, to sort of philanthropic efforts. He's donating a lot of stuff right now to try and work on our current situation with the coronavirus. So starting out as a B2B and moving to B2C and then customer to customer as well with their sort of history. And there are a couple of links here you can look at as well. What they've done is they've actually opened up shops with help of government. There's an awful lot of interesting sort of interactions in China between the Chinese government and helping certain businesses when they see that it's in the interest of, say, community or economic development. So kinds of leads you into a conversation maybe about social marketing, using marketing for purposes other than just your own company's interests. That is to say, your own company's interests may parallel those of the communities which you serve. And so how do you work on that? That's in ways that are, good for everybody around the table, sort of thinking about your stakeholders and so on as part of your marketing efforts. So that's also a sort of a sub story behind all of this. So as you learn about Jack Ma, be thinking about what small businesses, how they've been affected by this. And as we move ahead, you can think about the businesses that you visited and the extent to which they are engaged with the internet, whether they'd want to, or whether they'd find it helpful or not. Because I think after we've done a little job of describing our stores, then maybe we can think like marketers about, okay, what happens when things change radically? How can you help? Let's say this thing lasts for 2 months. That's enough time to put a lot of stress on a small business. Maybe there's some things they can do from a marketing standpoint to do, I don't know, the usual stuff you'd think of, right? Carry out using DoorDash, that sort of thing. Is DoorDash going to make sense for that market that they serve? And how would that work, right? There are interesting questions that we can ask from a marketing standpoint about people's response to the present moment. So with that in mind, I'm looking at the clock, 40, that's about 25 minutes. That's about as long as I want this to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording now. I'm going to say thanks, but you can stick around if you want. If people have questions, we can address those on the chat. I'm going to stop and say thanks. If you're watching the recording, thanks for joining, and hit me up on the email